Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. Here's a fact for you. Did you know that 300 million pairs of running shoes are discarded in the UK alone each year? Multiply that by the rest of the world and you're looking at quite a staggering number. And each pair of these shoes can actually last for up to 1,000 years when they end up in landfill. Many of them do because they're very complicated to break down and the materials that are used do not degrade quickly. One shoe thinks it has the answer. This is the Veja Condor 2. It's the follow-up to the original Condor. We reviewed that on the channel here and we're here to tell you A, can this help with that kind of problem of shoes heading for landfill? And B, is it any good as a running shoe? Let's take a look. So the Condor 2 is made of exactly the same materials as the Condor 1, which we've reviewed, link up above. But what Veja says is they've managed to squeeze in some extra performance enhancements here with this shoe. The major one of those is making it lighter. It's 301 grams, it's 14 grams lighter overall than the Veja Condor 1. One of the things that we found in our review was that the Condor, it is quite a chunky shoe. It was quite a big shoe. There was a lot of shoe here going on. We'll tell you a little bit more about whether or not that's still the case with this shoe a little bit later on. So this shoe is a neutral daily trainer shoe. Condor says it's basically designed for roads and stable terrain. So none of your crazy off-roading here, guys. This is definitely a road and a kind of a park path kind of shoe. And also it's aimed at your kind of long, easy and recovery sessions. That's according to Veja. A couple of other key specs. You've got 10 mil drop, you've got 27 mils at the back and you've got 17 mils at the front here. And in terms of price, we didn't have the price when we made this video, but the original Condor was 130 of the UK pounds and $160 in the US. We don't expect that to be very much different for this because essentially there's not a huge amount different with this new shoe. So we feel like it'd be remiss if we didn't do a quick whip round of this shoe and talk to you about the recyclable materials that are built into the shoe very quickly so you can get a sense of just how kind of eco-friendly this shoe might be. So as with the Condor 1, you've got what's called an alveolar mesh upper here. It's made from 100% recycled bottles. It's knitted, it's quite tight knit here, so it does offer quite a lot of structure and support. It's supposed to be breathable. It is lighter now than on the Condor 1 because they've taken a layer away. There were other layers between this and your foot. They've removed one of the layers, so there's just one layer of alveolar mesh now to lose some weight. This chunk of midsole, which is the same as on the Condor 1, it's a one-piece midsole and it's made from 62% bio-based materials. So it's not entirely plant-based, but it's getting there. It's more than halfway. It's narrower here, this midsole kind of portion, than it would have been on the Condor 1. Now, what Veja have said to us is that is about producing a little bit of sort of performance weight saving, and also, but you're still getting that one piece, you're still getting a good amount of stability. So they haven't compromised on stability, but what you are getting is a bit of weight saving there from that sort of narrower overall footprint. So the other thing here is there's some aesthetic changes here. On the original Condor, this did have sort of cutouts on it, sort of cutout dents into the outsole. It's now smooth, so whether or not you like it smooth or you like it rough, that's going to be something for you guys to judge. So let's flip it on the underside. You've still got this kind of almost full foot outsole, which is great for grip. It's made of 30% Amazonian rubber. That's tapped Amazonian rubber, so then they're basically keeping the forests alive there, using that. So it's kind of the idea here is that's sort of a very sustainable way to get the rubber and support the rainforests. It's kind of in sections, and you can see there's some channels here. It does offer good grip. There's not huge lugs, but it does offer good grip. And actually fundamentally here, durability. Durability is a key thing. If we want to keep shoes out of landfill, keeping them on our feet for longer is one way to go, and that is something Veja are very much out to do, to make these shoes as durable as possible. So they've got this kind of this nice full foot length rubber outsole. So inside the shoe, you've got what Veja is calling an L-foam rubber insole. Basically, it's an insert. It's 4 mils thick. Let's pull it right out so you can have a little look. It's 4 mils thick, and this is there essentially to enhance shock absorbency. It's made from all natural rubber, and it's there to basically help with that kind of cushioning on the ride to add to that midsole foam. On the outside of the shoe, you are Basically, you've got a couple of things here. You've got this kind of what's called a sort of, it's a V-clip in the heel. It's like an outside heel counter. That is from a natural sort of Pebax. So it's a natural form of Pebax, plant-based. And also you've got some added supports here on the outside and a little bit of extra kind of reinforcement around the toe, although not a huge amount. That's there, all there to add a little bit of structure and a little bit of support for when you're running. And the final thing to say, your laces, your tech lining on the inside, they've got a nice kind of smooth, very comfortable tech lining, and things like this heel pull, they're all made from 100% recycled plastic bottles. So throughout the shoe, we're looking at materials that are supposed to be better for the environment right the way through. The whole shoe has had that kind of scrutiny. So let's talk quickly about fit. I got these in a UK size 9. I'm usually a UK size 8.5. I much prefer to have quite a wide toe box. I've got big wide feet as well that are quite kind of high on the top of the foot. Now these, I did find they came up a little bit narrow. If I'd have gone down to 8.5, I'm not sure in terms of the width whether or not that would have been a good thing. I think size 9, half size up, was good for width, although it did leave me with a little bit of spare at the top of the toe box without really having much wiggle room to the sides. So having said that, in the 9, I had quite a good lockdown fit. You know, they're held well in place across the top of the midfoot. I felt they were cradled well in the heel. There's enough cushioning here to make that kind of a comfortable ride, a comfortable fit, no rubbing for me. I think I would definitely be advising to go half a size up if you've got a particularly wide foot or you like to have a little bit more room. These could come up just a little bit narrow. So let's talk about the run then. And I've put in probably around 100 miles plus in these shoes over a period of about sort of 6 weeks. I've done everything sort of from a long, slow Sunday run up to sort of 15, 16 miles. I've done some interval work. I've done some shorter, faster stuff. I've done some really casual, easy, short plods. You know, sort of 3 miles where you can't be asked to do much else. You're just getting out of the house. That kind of out for the head, not really for the cardio system sort of work. So I've put in a really good mixture of runs in these, comparing them very much as I go along to the Veja Condor one. And I have to say, Veja have made some sort of performance tweaks. They've made them lighter, but overall the run here that you're going to get off the Veja Condor 2 is almost identical to the Veja Condor 1. Now let me tell you a few things about what that means. The first and most important thing is that though Veja says these are for sort of longer, easier, sort of steady miles, training to everyday trainer, sort of and even recovery miles, you're going to have to be a fan of very firm shoes to enjoy those kind of runs in this shoe. It is very firm. Now, as I had with the Veja Condor 1, when I first put this shoe on underfoot, having come from sort of softer shoes, let's say softer cushioning shoes, it's a bit of an eye-opener and you think, my God, am I actually going to be able to run in these? Over time, as you get into the shoes, that sort of sensation sort of dissipates. I know whether it's, again, I said it with the Veja Condor 1, I wasn't really sure whether the shoes were being broken in or I was being broken in. I'm not sure who. I quite like a firm shoe though, but these are very firm. You know, I said it again with the Veja Condor 1. If you try and get into that midsole foam, you can see there's very little compression there. This is hard underfoot without doubt. So I wouldn't necessarily use them for recovery miles at all. I would use them potentially for sort of slower miles. I don't think I'd go much more than a half marathon in them overall. I think after that, you do start to feel that they're taking their toll on your legs. I would kind of be tempted for my run performance sort of review of this. I'm talking about those runs where you might go out and do like an easy 10K. You know, they're not responsive in the sense of kind of a carbon plated shoe or a super foam shoe that's sort of compressing and springing you off. It doesn't have that. If you can run fast in a firm shoe, this might be a shoe that you might want to take up a clip. But I think overall, if you're used to coming from sort of pillowy, cushiony, soft, marshmallowy shoes, and you're expecting that kind of response from a foam, that kind of protection and cushioning from a foam, you're not going to get it here with the Veja Condor 2. These are not going to be shoes for you. Now, shoes that I'm thinking of in my head when I talk about that, again, are like an Asics Nova Blast. This is the opposite end of the scale to an Asics Nova Blast. Having said that, other things that I wanted to talk about here, really important, when it comes to the kind of the overall upper feel and the fit and the comfort and the cushioning, and around here, the way it sort of holds and cradles your foot, and the hug down the foot, the way the mesh sort of feels across the top of the foot, the way this kind of cushioned collar sits on the back of just below the sort of Achilles, all of that I think is perfectly fine, perfectly comfortable, and actually really quite a pleasure to run in. So one thing that's really interesting though, I think in the materials that we got, this said there was an 80% energy return from this kind of midsole foam, but you don't really feel that, I don't think, on the run at all. I did feel, particularly on that longer run where I went sort of beyond the half marathon distance, that my legs were taking a bit of a beating towards the end. I didn't feel like my feet were as happy. You could really sort of feel the ground coming up through. If you like ground contact feel, you're going to get it with this. You're going to feel like you're hitting the ground there and feeling that ground contact sensation. I do think that is very present here. So on the underside, they've actually changed the kind of grip traction pattern. They've got a various different sort of types of grip traction here. I love the grip on the first Veja Condors, and I think these are really good as well. I had no problems in them. I actually took them out on one run. We'd had a bit of snow here in the UK, and I went out on one of those days where it's that kind of sludgy, melted, post kind of snow mayhem that's out on the pavements, and they held up really fine. That was all good. I also think that, when it comes to durability, and this is one of the key things that Veja obviously will be pushing, is how long these shoes last. That's one of the remits here, is to make shoes that you don't need to replace as often, so you're not taking out of the environment, and that feels good. These shoes have barely got a mark on them after all those miles, and I think that is fantastic. From that point of view, these things feel like they're built to last. I feel like they could go for quite a long time. I also don't feel like this midsole foam, almost because there isn't as much compression as we sort of talked about earlier, it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere at all. That kind of compression that you get over time from midsole foam, it feels like you might get a few more miles than sort of the classic sort of 300 to 500 that people recommend out of these. I haven't gone that far in them yet, but that'll be interesting to see. So what's the verdict on the Veja Condor 2 then? Well, I think you have to judge this shoe slightly on a different scale to the other shoes that have come out in 2020. We've seen some amazing shoes come out with super foams, but these are not shoes that are trying in any way necessarily to be environmentally friendly. They are not using materials that are kind of cutting edge and new. They're using materials that have been developed over a long period of time and have different properties. It's not an easy thing to do to produce an eco-friendly shoe that is really, really tip-top performance. So you kind of have to judge the Veja Condor 2 almost on a different scale. It is not a remarkable running shoe. It is not the most comfortable running shoe I've ever run in. I would probably be tempted to buy this and use this if I was a kind of runner who only ever went out and did, 3 steady 10Ks in a week. I was using running as my kind of cardio fitness, and I'm not really looking for sort of massive performance. I'm not really on my feet long enough that the cushioning makes a difference. And a big caveat here, I'd be that kind of runner who had a very, very sort of environmentally friendly mindset. I want to do something good for the planet. I'm gonna actually maybe take a little bit less comfort in return for doing something good for the planet. That's where this shoe feels like it fits. It isn't a match in terms of overall comfort for a lot of the top end shoes that we're seeing that are using non-environmentally friendly materials. It just isn't. The other thing we should say here is that Veja Condor 2 comes into a marketplace where there are actually more eco-friendly shoes arriving by the minute. So Adidas, we've seen, is kind of upping its game even further beyond its kind of Futurecraft closed loop shoes to use recycled plastics in its Ultra Boost range. We've also seen Salomon come online with the Index. Now, I've been testing the Index recently, and I'm going to have a review for you on that shoe very soon. And now if I sort of said, should you buy the Veja or should you buy something else? Shoes like the Salomon Index, the Ultra Boost, you've also got the Allbirds Dasher. There's a review of that shoe on the channel here too. But I think right now, by far the best shoe coming at this kind of thing with an eco-friendly mindset is actually the Salomon Index. That has been a remarkable shoe, and it's the closest I think I've come yet to a shoe that feels closer to the performance that you get out of a sort of a non-environmentally friendly shoe. Veja have got, this comes in some lovely styles. It is a shoe that you can wear to the gym, run on a treadmill, and then wear out afterwards, and it will look great, it will fit in, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a cross-purpose shoe, I think, for sort of casual miles. If you're just using running for general kind of fitness, it might fit into that whole world of kind of lifestyle running or that kind of business. I think that the Allbirds Dasher is a better shoe. It's more comfortable to run in. And then I think now something like the Salomon Index is a better shoe even still. And when that comes out on mass sale, that would probably be the one that I'll be recommending people go and buy if you're trying to do something for the environment and eke out really good kind of running performance too. So I think what I'm saying here really is that I think the Condor needs to fix one thing. The uppers are great. I think it needs to soften this midsole. If it softens this midsole, it'll have far more appeal to those sort of casual runners that we need to hit mass market in order to make a difference to the planet. This isn't really that yet, and I think that's one thing that next time, Condor 3, find a material, go out there, please find a material in the environment that can make this just a little bit more soft and a little bit more forgiving on the run. And I think, Veja, you may well have a shoe that lots of people will want to buy, but for now, I think it's just a little bit too firm for most people, and therefore I think there are better options out there at the moment. So there you have it, that's the Veja Condor 2 review. If you like what you saw, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, ask us a load of questions in the comments if you want to know more about this shoe or other eco-friendly shoes that are coming out. We will have more big eco shoes reviews coming up on this channel in the next couple of weeks, so definitely subscribe if you want to hear more about that. We've got some biggies actually I think you're going to like. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about this shoe, and we hope to see you again very soon. I've been Kieran, over and out for now guys.